you need to start booking things for next year. I just loaded it up. I just took everything that came in and I decided to build this great big tour, but it's too big. It's just too many dates, too many shows.
Is there such a thing?
I mean, I've been gone
Does it make you happy?
So much. To an extent.
What is the unhappy part?
It's just gone too much. It really is too much,
George
man.
Carlin, right? He said in his book, or he said also like in interviews, like this job would be perfect if they would just all come to my house.
That's the truth.
He was like, unfortunately, I got to go out to them. And he's like, and that's why they give me the money.
That's why you get paid. How crazy, was it awesome for you to work with him?
Amazing. He was everything you wanted him to be plus more. You know, you remind me, and I'm just saying this because like fucking I'm on your show or whatever, but you remind me of him in as much as he was a comic that didn't feel the need to make you laugh. He wasn't on all the time.
Oh, definitely not.
Not at all. You could have conversations with him. So you could just sit there. Like he would have fucking flourished in the age of the podcast.
For sure.
Because everyone knew his like fucking
he would have had
routines,
the monster
but, like,
podcast.
He was just a talker. Like he was a guy that could just sit there and hold court and stuff. So yeah, he like.
And you know this, by the way, but you helped make part of his dream come true in that Carlin's dream was to be an actor.
Yes.
He wanted to be an actor.
Yeah, he wanted to be Danny Kaye.
And
he wanted to be a song and dance man.
So he loved getting
That's why we worked very well together.
That's pretty cool.
It was. I always thought like I got so much out of him even before I met him. Like my father gave me Carlin albums when I was a kid. That was like the version of like, you can handle this beer. He gave me like a class clown. He was like, do not let your mother hear you listen to this. Listen to it with headphones on and shit. And Carlin just made me smarter as a kid. You know, if you're listening to Carlin, you're introduced to concepts and language that are above your depth. And you have to, if you want to keep up, you have to look up things and become smarter. So that also fostered probably more intelligence I would have had if I didn't listen to Carlin. So, and then also me, like I didn't want to, like, I didn't think about being on stage. Like that wasn't in my cards. That happened because when you bring a movie to a festival afterwards, you got to get up and do Q&A.
Yeah.
And I felt fake coming across erudite. I'd only ever made one movie, so I couldn't hold forth on like film theory.
Yeah.
But what I could do is tell entertaining stories about how we made the movie. Like, let me tell you how we got the cat to shit on cue, and fucking work it essentially like a little
like
stand-up bit,
Absolutely.
tell anecdotes.
I've seen clips of you doing. It's just like watching a stand-up.
And that I learned from George, like not from George at his knee, just watching George growing up, a lot of stand-ups, but mostly he was my favorite. And the idea was, if somebody's going to put a microphone in your hand, like don't fucking be staid, just make them laugh. Like you got a chance to entertain them and stuff like that. They'll remember you more if you tell them like how you got the cat to shit on cue than if you talk about your film theory and why you shot the aspect ratio you did and stuff.
Oh,
particularly because I'm brand new at the thing. So because of that, like I wound up in front of audiences and I just followed his fucking lead. And so couldn't pay that guy back for all he didn't know that he gave me or all I took from him, from his example. Like as a young kid, I remember watching Carlin at Carnegie and being like, wouldn't that be amazing? Like to grow up and be smart and curse all you want.
Yeah.
Like, and he sounded intelligent even when he was cursing. My parents, who hated cursing, let him curse on HBO. They didn't like turn it down. They'd like, laugh along. They were into it. Him, they respected. So how do you pay that guy back? You give him the only thing he ever wanted. He loved to act.
He loved it.
So I'd call him up and be like, yeah, let's do it. And he'd come fucking play. And he treated it so seriously, man. I've told the story a zillion times. We were doing Jersey Girl and we're in rehearsals, right? It's just me and him and Ben Affleck, and Ben's pouring some morning coffee. And George is like flattening his script. And he's just like, Kevin, I have a question for you as the author of this piece. And I was like, okay. And he goes, the character Greenie that I'm always giving shit to, as Stephen Root played this character Greenie. He's like, I'm always stepping on his dick and up his ass, and it makes no sense. He's a sweet guy, and he's never done anything in the movie to warrant this kind of treatment. So I was always bumping into it. But last night, I figured it out. I wrote a backstory for my character. I figured out why I'm always irritated with Greenie. It has something to do with a girl that we got a mutual hand job from back in high school. He's going, so I wrote 18 pages of backstory. And I was like, 18? He goes, don't you worry about it. I've already memorized it. I've thrown it out. I will never reference it in the dialogue. But just know that whenever Greenie's giving me, I'm giving Greenie shit, this is the memory that I'm pulling from. And I turned to fucking Affleck. I was like, why can't you be this fucking good? He was method. He believed in the craft. He believed in the lie that tells the truth. Like, he loved acting. And if he'd had his druthers, that's what he would have done. He backed into being one of the greatest stand-ups of all time.
Oh, yeah.
But acting, he loved. And I think that's the one thing when he left this world, I felt like, you know what? The guy gave me so much, I was able to give him back.
Dude, that's so cool.
I gave him shit like he blew a trucker in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, but my God, he was convincing.
Oh, dude, he was fucking rad. And I mean, and in Dogma.
Yes, Cardinal Glick.
Yeah, it was so great. I also, by the way, my dream was to be that's what I went to LA for. To be an actor.
To be an actor? Is that that's what brought
I
you out?
never was pursuing stand-up, yeah.
Why'd you wind up in stand-up then?
By accident.
How?
I was in the Groundlings.
And you were in the Groundlings for acting?
To be I thought I'd be a good comedy actor.
Right. But while you were there, you were like, I'm good in front of people?
Somebody told me.
What'd they say?
They were like, you should try stand-up.
Who said that?
Sam Tripoli, who's a comedian. He was like, you should do stand-up. And I was like, what? He goes, you would like stand-up. I can tell. Because we would do these things, and sometimes you were alone doing the thing. And he was like...
You shined when you were by yourself?
He was like, you would like stand-up. And I go, what do I do? And so he drove me around LA one night, and I followed him doing spots. I just watched him. I was like, what do you do? I don't know what you do. And I watched him do like 3 spots. And I was like, okay.
Were you guys friends?
Just from the class. So everybody in the class was kind of supportive, you know.
It's a commitment to bring you around.
It was very nice, very generous of him. And then Nick Wegner, who's now, he writes a lot. He's written on shows and a bunch of stuff. And he has a writing partner. He was also in that class, and he did stand-up also. And he was like, I think he's right. I think you'd like stand-up. And he goes, here. And then we walked into this place, like a small bar show. And he's like, this is the booker. He walks up to her as she's doing something. And he goes, hey, Kathy, this is Tom. He's a stand-up.
And you were not a stand-up.
I've never done a stand-up. And
that moment you were, as like when Tony Stark was like, you're an Avenger. Kid.
Yeah, exactly. And then and she's like, oh, cool. She goes, do you want to do... not next Thursday after, you want to do a spot? And I just go, yeah. She goes, okay, you're booked. And then she like writes it down. And I walked away. He's like, oh, you got a spot. And I was like, what do I do?
How much, did you have 5 minutes? Did you have 10?
Dude, do you know how stupid I am? I wrote about this in my book, but when I think about, I can still, this is real panic because I think about how stupid this is. I invited people to come watch me do stand-up, and I told them I do stand-up. Like, I didn't tell them this is the first time I'll ever do stand-up. I was like, do you want to come watch me do stand-up? And they were like, you do stand-up? And I was like, yeah.
Without being like, I do now.
Yeah.
Or I will.
Or I will attempt for the first time. And they're like, oh, Tom does stand-up.
All right, so wait. They went.
And? It went, like, not as poorly as it could go and not amazing, but, like, got some laughs to the point where, like, I mean, I'm sure it's awful. I have it on tape. I have not watched it.
Really?
I have it on tape.
You should reinvestigate. Oh my God. How have you not done this on a whole episode?
I don't know. I got to bust it out.
With your lady just fucking like ranking on you? One of the best episodes we ever did a Smodcast was like I found these tapes that I used to like bike around my town and record myself. Scott Mosier called it dobbling after Lloyd Dobler. He's like, you're acting like Lloyd Dobler, driving around recording your thoughts and shit like that. And we did an episode called Emo Kev where I play the tapes.
Yeah.
And we pause just to fucking have him cackle at all the stupid shit that I'm saying.
We got.
It would be gold. It would be.
I have the very first time doing stand-up. I also have, like, maybe a year and a half, 2 years in, where I'm dialed in on how much I'm obsessed with Chris Rock.
Right.
And you are watching.
You do Chris Rock?
A poor Chris, like unaware, but I'm like, and then I'm like doing this with my hands. Like,
oh my
God.
God.
And I'm like, all my hand gestures are his hand gestures.
Culturally appropriating,
yeah,
if you will.
And I was like, and I'm even like kind of like blacking it up when I talk. I'm like, you know, I had a lady come up to me one time and I'm talking to her off stage like this. And she goes, you're oddly urban on stage. And I was like, oddly urban?
What a way to put it.
Yeah, and then I was like, I mean, it took me a while to process.
Sounds like a fucking dog whistle, doesn't it? You're oddly urban. We'll meet you at the meeting.
It was, yeah. But you go through all these iterations when you're trying to figure it out. But the worst is that I definitely have it on tape. Yeah.
You gotta that's an episode right there.
I know.
Ooh, mommy, did you enjoy that highlight? Why don't you have more fun? Click around. click here, or here, or here, or here, or here. Look, try it out. Have more fun. Why don't you subscribe? That way, every time a video drops, you can be notified. You're not going to miss a moment of denim, okay? Try it out. Be her.